My name is Omar Almeida, and this is my informative speech. This is my audience.
Brandon.
I apologize for not having the 3 audience members that's required. It's that right now in my household there are only 4 people, and out of that, it's just me, my brother, and then my 2 younger siblings. And I did not think that this was an appropriate topic for them to sit through. I apologize for that. I hope you understand. According to Planned Parenthood, only 46% of students across the nation have any sort of sexual education programs, while nearly 97% of all parents support the idea of having sexual education programs in place for their high school students. Today, I will inform you about the current situation in the United States of sexual education. I will talk you through 2 main points. The first being the lack of sexual education programs in the United States. And secondly, the many negative effects that not having sexual education programs can lead to. So to start off, according to Planned Parenthood, on September 17th of 2020, nearly 46% of all students in the United States have any sort of sexual education programs. This means that more than half of students in the United States have no sort of sexual education programs. Now, currently in the United States, there are only 34 states that require sexual education programs. This means that 16 states have no form of sexually mandated sexual education programs. That leaves many students across the nation with no form of sexual education. And that can lead to many negative effects. In countries like Sweden and Norway and Czechoslovakia in Europe, sexual education programs start as early as kindergarten, and they progress and intensify as the kids age. And in these countries specifically, we can see results such as the teen pregnancy rate is as small as 1.5 in the age group of 14 to 20 years old of teen pregnancy. Now, this is not only the lowest in Europe, but it's some of the lowest teen pregnancy rates across the world. And this can be directly tied back to the sexual education programs starting at such a young age and the fact that they're present at all. Now, compare that to the sexual education programs in the United States and the 16 states that have no form of sexual education. We can see that in states like Mississippi and Arkansas that have no form of sexual education, these students are more prone to mishaps. And that leads me directly into my second point: the negative effects of not having sexual education programs. According to the Green Journal, not having sexual education programs is tied directly to teen pregnancies, sexual violence, and the spread of STDs and STIs. Now, like I mentioned, in states in the United States like Arkansas and Mississippi, these states are amongst the highest ranked in the United States with teen pregnancy. And like mentioned, this can be directly tied to the lack of sexual education compared to states like California and New York that have among the most present sexual education programs that are mandated by the state. Like in New York and California, which are actually the two of the largest and most populated states in the United States, they do have some of the lowest teen pregnancies in the United States. And once again, we can see completely this comparison and how that is tied to sexual education programs. Gendered violence and sexual abuse are also some negative things that are directly tied into the lack of sex ed programs in the United States. Now, according to Vox News on September 16th of 2017, gendered violence across the world and specifically in the United States is directly tied to young children being forced into relationships because of teen pregnancies and other things that set those relationships. And so that leads to young couples being more likely to be victims of STIs and other things that could be prevented from better education. Among these things is gendered violence and sexual abuse. Gendered violence is something that affects more than half of the women in the United States because of the young age and the relationships being starting at such a young age. So today I informed you about the current situation in the United States with sexual education. I talked you through 2 main points. The first being that first, there is not enough sexual education programs in the United States, and secondly, the negative effects that can lead to. Sexual education is such an important part of growing up, and so we are leaving in the United States so many students vulnerable to not having that sexual education. And for those reasons, sexual education is very important. Thank you.